Hoping to have a better episode next week. Although it is ridiculous that this was such a longest episode we've had, and next week's
The
like 30
biggest
minutes.
waste of time.
I saw a funny thing on TikTok where someone said the best way to watch The Mandalorian season 3, episode 3, and it just played the beginning, and then they zoom off into space after the TIE interceptors are chasing them, and then it just shows them fast forwarding through the entire thing to the very end of when they come out of hyperspace, and it goes, there you go. You've seen the episode.
That's all
now.
you needed to watch. One of my friends texted me and she was like, so I'm just warning you about the new Mando episode. Watch the first 10 minutes, watch the last 10 minutes. They mentioned something brief about cloning, but you're not really missing out if you don't watch it. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it was very drawn out. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. We're talking about Mandalorian, or we're talking about Amnesty Program, Andor show, whatever was going on in season 3.
Whatever just happened.
Episode 3. Mandalorian got Book of Boba Fetted this week.
Got Dr. Pershing.
Yeah.
In not the best way. They dragged it out. It almost seemed they dragged it out just to drag it out.
It really did. I was like, okay. The first 10 minutes of that little subplot, I was like, okay, I get what they're doing with this. I know where they're going. And then it would go to another scene, and you're like, okay. And then it would just go to another scene, and I'm like, where's Mando? That was such a cool opening scene, too. So,
and not all of it was completely relevant. Like the first 5 minutes where he's standing giving his TED talk on cloning and single strands cloning to make one brand new strand, like that was relevant. I get that. But the rest of the episode, like, was kind of pointless. Unless it's an episode of him and his own show. It just didn't do anything to further the plot other than the first 5 minutes of the TED talk.
Yeah, it was weird. We
We
did get a couple cool moments in here. But let's jump in. Let's jump into the episode. Although, do we have any Star Wars news?
Other than the Star Wars movie, I think the director just confirmed today that he is working on it.
Okay.
There's a quote from him where he said, "This is a meticulous process, and if it's not the best, then it shouldn't even be made." He said something like that.
Oh, gotcha.
Let me see if I can pull it up. I might have liked it on Twitter. Let's see.
Yeah. Well,
I found it.
Okay.
How do you say his name? Damon Lindelof?
Yeah. Damien Lindelof.
Damon Lindelof has confirmed that he is working on a Star Wars film and discussed his approach. The degree of difficulty is extremely high. If it can't be great, it shouldn't exist, and that's all I'll say for now. But confirmed, he's working on it.
Well, there you go. See, this is why you tune into the show. We report first on everything that comes out. There's some more rumors floating about, which I think would be better saved till we get to the pertinent part of the episode, but there's some rumors floating around of plot points for the rest of the season that I think are pretty much confirmed with this episode. So we'll get to that, but let's jump into the episode first, and we'll bring it up when we get to that specific
there's also a lot of rumors about certain character from Rebels who is going to appear this season.
Right.
It's a rumor, but it's looking very, very, very likely.
Are you going to expand on that, or
do you want me to?
If you'd like.
So, in Star Wars Rebels, we had a lot of Mandalorian history elaborated on, and there was a character in that show called Fen Rao. And I cannot remember the actor's name for the life of me, but it looks like he is coming back to play the character in the live action. I can't remember his name.
Kevin McKidd.
Yes.
Quick Google search helped me out with that.
I was working on it, and then you got to it before me. Looks like rumor at this point, but the source that's reporting on it has been right in the past. So if that's true, then we get another Rebels character, and I think this is really going to start to culminate into the Ahsoka series, as we suspect. So Fen Rao appears. That's a nice little Easter egg from Rebels. Again, take it with a grain of salt. A rumor, but said source who is reporting on this has been right on other things in the past. So,
well, there you go. You heard that here first, and this is why you tune into the show, to get the breaking news from Star Wars from us. So make sure to like and subscribe and click notification bell if you want to continue getting good news. Click that below and follow us on all social media at @star_wars_pod, and make sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you guys want to watch these videos, they're on Spotify if you want to be on the go, if you have Spotify Premium. So you can watch them there as well. Let's jump into the episode. Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3. This episode was directed by Lee Isaac Chung, written by Noah Kluwer and Jon Favreau. The summary is... what is the summary? The official description is, on Coruscant, former Imperials find amnesty in the New Republic. That is the tagline. So let's jump in to the most underwhelming episode of the season so far. So we start out actually really strong. We start off exactly where the last episode ended, with Din and Bo are on Mandalore, sitting by the living waters. Din is kind of recovering, lying down, coughing, and Grogu is tending to him very cutely. He is very happy because he says he has been redeemed. And Bo-Katan seems like she's come around. She's like, you have been. Like, good job. Like, kind of respects him a little bit more, which I thought was an interesting little piece of dialogue there. She seemed to have some resentment for him before, but after this little adventure, romantic love quest that they went on, she seems to have more respect for Din now. So they're sitting here talking. Din goes up and fills up his this little vial with some of the water, puts it on his belt. And Bo isn't mentioning anything about the huge dinosaur she just saw in the water. She just is really cryptic about it. She asked Din, "Did you see anything in the water?" And he's like, "No, I just saw the chasm as he fell down."
Well, two things here. One, he fell. Like, the mythosaur didn't drag him under. Din just fell.
Yeah, that was weird. I know he wasn't like, I got pulled under.
So apparently his armor is super heavy, like the Beskar is super heavy. I thought it was supposed to be like durable but manageable to wear on your body. So that was the first thing where I was like, wow, Din, that's kind of pathetic, man, but okay. The other thing I noticed is, why do you think Bo didn't tell him about the mythosaur? What do you think her reasoning is behind that?
I'm not sure. I was wondering that myself. Maybe she doesn't fully know what she saw yet. Maybe she isn't, like, maybe she's still, like, I don't know, coping with it and trying to understand what it is that she saw, or trying to make sense of it, maybe. She doesn't want to, like, because she knows he's a weird culty guy, and she doesn't want to get him all excitable. Or, yeah, maybe she just wants to keep it close to the chest because this is very valuable information.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was because of her ego or if she has, like, ulterior motives, which I'm not sure, because the ending might contradict that idea or that theory. But it is interesting why she chose to keep that from him.
Yeah, that was one thing disappointing about this episode, is it was obviously a huge ending last week, and then we get into this one, and we want to talk about that. Like, let's continue this storyline, and they didn't at all. And I'm like...
And let's discuss, like, what is the mythosaur? The cultural significance for the Mandalorians, and what its coming back means.
Right. So people, like, especially people that are watching this show for the first time and have no clue, like, they're probably super confused. Like, oh, there's just a monster in the water. Big whoop-de-doo. You know what I mean?
In the past, the armor has mentioned the mythosaur, and she said she says something along the lines of, it's foretold that the mythosaur will rise out of the waters to herald the new age of Mandalore.
Yep.
She said something along those lines. And so I thought the natural conclusion would to kind of get into the mythology of the mythosaur. But literally, though,
of
like
the
the mythology.
Truthosaur. That's what we're calling it from now on.
Of the reality-osaur.
Reality-osaur.
You know, so it is really strange that they didn't at least pick up that thread or have Din and Bo talk about its cultural significance to Mandalorians, even if Din didn't see it. Like, if Bo had just brought it up and she's trying to feel it out. It's just odd.
Yeah, like, she didn't... It would have been weird. It would have been better, I think, if she asked him, how much do you know about the mythosaur? Like, maybe before even all this happened in the last episode, just to give some context for it. Because they didn't really set that up or explain it very well, so it just kind of leaves people questioning it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Luckily, I had an idea of what it was, but I don't think a lot of people who watch this would know. You know what I mean?
Only
so, like,
thing
maybe
I
if
know
they would have mentioned it before, like, while they were in the Mines of Moria, like, walking around, and she said something, like, how much do you know about the mythosaur or whatever? And, like, they just explain it that way without making it so obvious. It would have helped explain a little bit more. And then, I don't know, not mentioning it at all this episode was strange.
Look, I'm not even entirely sure the history of the mythosaur. All I know is it's kind of like the signet of the Mandalorians. Like, it's their logo. It's their trademark.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so, I don't know the whole thing either, but I do know it's a signet, and obviously that's pertinent information. But again, some people might not know that, so it would be worth
It's like, fill in the gaps, please. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, fill in the gaps. I want a little bit more storytelling here. But either way, yeah, she's keeping it close to the chest, doesn't mention it. I would think she'd be bursting at the seams to say something about it when that's happening, because that's obviously huge news, right? So that was really weird. And then she asks if he saw anything alive, and then he's like, "What do you mean?" And then she kind of just backtracks. Strange. So then they start exiting. She looks back at the water, but then, keeps moving on. They meet R5 in Kryz's ship. Kryz's ship. I don't ever know how to say her last name. Kryz. Okay. And she's like, "I'll take you back to your ship, and then we'll, go our own separate ways." She said that she would offer to host a feast, but she's like, "You can't take your helmet off," which it does bring up an interesting thing, like the whole eating stuff with Mandalorians. That's got to be so annoying. It's like me with my new Invisalign. I am a new owner of Invisalign, and I can only take them off when I eat. Similar to a Mandalorian only taking off his helmet. Yeah, you couldn't see him because they're Invisalign.
Gorgeous. Perfect. That's very much like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, so me and Din have a lot in common.
It has to be a massive pain. This is the way. Yeah. It has to be a massive pain to just, when you have to eat, you have to do it by yourself, or you have to lift your helmet only to get your mouth.
Yeah, and we see him doing that last season. He's like lifting his helmet up a little bit to munch. So Grogu babbles something. All right, this was actually kind of a big part, which I didn't really notice. Some people were talking about this. He goes, "This is the way." She says, "This is the way." And then we see Grogu babbling in the back. It kind of sounds like he's trying to say, "This is the way." I don't know if you noticed that.
I did notice that, which leads me to conclude I think we're going to get Grogu talking very soon.
I think that'll be a big part of this season as well. Maybe some little words here and there. Yeah.
I wonder how he's going to talk. I mean, he'll probably talk normal because... Yaddle talked normal, and Yoda talked... Okay, so apparently the thing with Yoda is that Yoda talked backwards because his master talked backwards. So he's like only doing it as like this thing out of respect for his master. This is legit, by the way. Like, Dave Filoni has said this.
Wow.
And I don't know where it initially came from. So look it up if you want more information. But apparently that's why Yoda talks the way he does. But just imagine, like, if Grogu starts talking, it's like Danny DeVito's voice.
"Hey, I'm Grogu. What's up?" Maybe that's where we put Patrick Warburton. He's
Grogu.
He's Grogu's voice.
Would you prefer Patrick Warburton or Danny DeVito?
Either one would be hilarious. Danny DeVito would be really, really like out of left field. "Hey," or just like a guy from Brooklyn. "Hey, I'm Grogu. What's up? I'm a Mandalorian." He's just an Italian. He's an Italian Goomba from Brooklyn. "Give me the gabagool."
Give me the gabagool.
"Hey, Dad, I can talk now. My name's Grogu.
This is the way.
This is the way. You got a problem with that?" So yeah, we kind of see Grogu kind of saying something unintelligible, but maybe saying something. He's developing his own voice, whether he's some kind of Italian mobster or if he's David Puddy. So that was kind of interesting. That was one of the more interesting parts of the episode, of which there was very few. And then as they are traveling back, they see a lot of TIE interceptors pushing towards them. So they are getting attacked by these TIE fighters, which Bo-Katan says she's angered a lot of Imperial warlords. So they start heading back to Din's ship. This is the best scene in the episode. This is a really good scene, a really good scene of the entire season, I thought. Very much original trilogy vibes in the way that it was shot, with the cockpit shots, the sound effects, obviously. Mm-hmm. It was just really well done. I thought how they fly down to her planet. They're all shooting. They do a really cool Mission Impossible thing where Din comes flying out of the Bo-Katan's awesome ship and gets down to his starfighter and starts backing her up. It was just a really exciting, fun scene, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was interesting too. There were a couple camera shots that I really liked here of Din's N1 starfighter like flying up, and then he like turns off the engines and it goes down, and he turns the engines back on. I really, really liked that a lot. But when Bo brought up the Imperial warlords or whatever she said, that little bit of dialogue that she had, I kind of felt like this episode, as much as it dragged, I felt like they're implying a lot of Thrawn. You know, like for some reason, I kind of felt the undertones of I'm like in dialogue that boxy, muscular woman has with Dr. Pershing as well. It really said, I don't remember her name. Her name is like Citizen Kane or something.
It's like
but I felt CG7567.
Yeah.
That's Captain Rex's number. No, but I kind of felt like there were undertones of Thrawn. I don't know. I feel like they're implying a lot of
Could
Thrawn.
be. We're obviously going to get Thrawn at some point in the Ahsoka series, so I wouldn't be surprised. However, based on what we're seeing later on in the episode, I really got Moff Gideon type vibes from this. I think he escaped. I think he's out. I think he's going to come back later this season, which we can get into in a little bit.
Yeah, he's definitely escaped, but I also feel like it's Citizen Kane is reporting to Moff Gideon, who's reporting to Thrawn.
Could be. Yeah, they could all be connected. That's a good point.
So,
but yeah,
anyway,
that was
moving
a
on.
interesting little tidbit of, I think that was some good development there, which leaves more to be wanted. As we're watching this, I was like, "Ooh, we'll get some good stuff. Like this could be a great episode. What are people talking about? This is going to be awesome." And then lo and behold, this is like the only good part of the episode. So, but I agree with you. Like the way this was shot was just really cool. I'm also curious as to how these fighters, like these guys, these pilots, they must be getting paid a lot because the Empire is not really still a thing anymore. So they're just doing the grunt work for these Imperial warlords. Like, you'd have to pay me a lot to be one of those guys.
Yeah, especially if a new rulership's taking over, like the New Republic.
Yeah.
So yeah. It is a little weird.
It's a
like, what's their motivation?
For you. You're just a grunt who's going to get blasted by Din or by Bo-Katan, but you're also persona non grata with the New Republic.
Yeah, it is very strange, you know, the two leaderships that are attempting to take place here. Just the competition, at least, because there are some people that are just so staunch in the way that the Empire ruled, and they were probably like, hell yeah, Empire, let's keep going. But you're right, there's not like a lot of cause for why they would stay. Yeah. So.
Weird. As they are destroying all these guys, Din is an amazing pilot here, obviously saves Bo. She's better at the Darksaber, he's a better pilot. They see a lot of explosions in the distance, and these are the TIE bombers destroying Bo-Katan's castle, which is a bummer. That was such a sick castle. So they're obviously after her. They've pinpointed her down, and we know that someone's after Bo-Katan now. For whatever reason it may be. We don't know 100%. Could be Thrawn, like you said. Could be Moff Gideon. We don't really know. So they blow up her castle, and then a bunch of these other TIE fighters come into view of the radar. We see multiple, probably 24 of these TIE fighters. They obviously can't take them, so they start to fly away. They go into the atmosphere, whatever, and Din gives her some super secret special coordinates, and they blast off into hyperspace, leaving the TIE fighters behind them. Now comes the exciting part.
I was like, now for the B plot.
So we're in Coruscant. Now, I was really excited when we saw this because I love Coruscant. I'm so excited to explore this world. This is kind of what I wanted more of in Andor, was like more of these sweeping city shots, you know, and see these floating cars and stuff like we saw in Attack of the Clones. That's kind of what I was hoping. We didn't really get a ton of that in Andor, but this is kind of the cinematography I wanted. And I thought that was really cool. Strong suit of this episode was you did feel like you were on Coruscant, which I do appreciate a lot. We also open up on the Opera House, which is where we had first found out about Darth Plagueis the Wise. That's the same staircase it looks like Anakin ran up when he was going to go talk to Palpatine, which is also one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. The music that's playing there, the weird little bubble things that's going on in Revenge of the Sith. whatever they're watching, the little Star Wars Cirque du Soleil or whatever.
It's yeah, I love that it's been converted into a TED Talk center now.
Yeah. Well, now Dr. Pershing is just giving a TED Talk on his experience in the amnesty program, which I don't really fully understand what that is. I'm guessing it's
rehabilitation,
right? Yeah,
for Imperial people.
Yeah. So a quick search on Wikipedia says it's a rehabilitation program operated by the New Republic, given accommodation and amnesty housing. So it's giving people a second chance. I guess. Which that's an interesting plot point, I suppose. Definitely doesn't warrant 35 minutes, but
especially with no build up prior, they just expect you to remember these characters.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on a tangent real quick here.
Please, by all means.
My problem with this whole thing is we start here. This is interesting, right? Dr. Pershing, I don't have any qualms against him, all right? But when you're doing a TV show, it's okay to have an episode that deviates from the main character. It's perfectly fine. It's happened in many, many TV shows before. However, when they do those episodes, it's in like 4th season, 5th season, and it's with a character that is in the show a lot. So if we had like a Bo-Katan episode, okay, I'm okay with that. As long as it pertains to the story of which we're watching with The Mandalorian. With this, this felt like a little Star Wars sequels side tangent plot. It didn't feel like Mandalorian. It felt like it was trying to fill in the blanks with the sequels with, like, they mentioned Moff Gideon, which obviously has to do with Mandalorian and the cloning stuff, kind of. But it kind of felt that was more the direction they were moving in, is this whole subplot here had more to do with the cloning program and maybe how Snoke comes into the picture, or Palpatine, whatever it is. Maybe Gideon is working on that somehow. And I just didn't feel like it was earned for a character like this, who's minimally interesting at best to begin with.
And minimally in the show.
Minimally in the show. He was in the show for what, one episode maybe last season?
Maybe 2.
2 seasons ago he was in 2.
He was in a couple, but it wasn't enough. Like, they almost needed to reintroduce him in a, I don't know whether that was an interaction with the character that we already knew, but just in a tiny scene before they did an episode like this. Like, they throw you back into it, expecting you to remember everything, including Citizen Kane, which is a problem because nobody remembers Citizen Kane.
I had no clue. I was like, in my reaction video, I'm like, why? I'm supposed to know who that is. Who is that? I don't remember. I don't know.
Like, she wasn't really a character.
They put it in the recap at the beginning for a second, but they didn't put her in enough for me to, like, catch on that I'm supposed to know who that is. So I don't know.
All she did was share a couple glances with Moff Gideon. She didn't really have a part in the second season, other than, like, looking tough. She didn't really have lines of dialogue. She just stood there and took orders.
I remember her not at all. And I was like, okay. I don't know. The whole thing could have been a lot more efficient in terms of how they did the dialogue, what they were trying to communicate. I don't hate this little subplot thing. It's just they could have done it in 15 minutes. They just was so long.
It felt like they were filling time to fill time.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like they had anything of value to say. It just felt like they were doing it because they could do it, as opposed to, like, you remember when Bad Batch has had a couple episodes like this. You know when they go to the planet where we meet Hauser for the first time with all the Twi'leks and Hera Syndulla and her family? Mm-hmm. They set that up. And it generally didn't really have to do with, like, the main plot of the Bad Batch, but it showed you what was happening on that planet. It got you introduced to Hauser, and then in the following episode, it, like, played out so it could be a 2-parter. And then you bring the Bad Batch in, and it was really efficient writing. Like, there was a reasoning behind it. And not to say that this episode's not going to have a reason. It's just, like, as in terms of efficiency and quality of writing, it just wasn't there.
And that's something that the Bad Batch does really well, actually. The last episode, not the most recent one, but the one before this, the Crosshair one, very efficient writing. They get done. Yeah. They get every beat is very succinct. So, anyways, we are talking about Dr. Pershing. He's giving his little TED Talk. We see this really buff chick, which, by the way, she is kind of jacked. So good for her.
Isn't she a wrestler or something in real life?
I don't know. Could be. Yeah, probably. She's in great shape, whoever she is. And talking about Moff Gideon, blah, blah, blah. Not a whole lot of great stuff here. Oh, he gets in his taxi on the way to his amnesty housing. This was kind of long scene. The taxi droid's talking to him about sightseeing and stuff, the botanical gardens and all this. And he gets back to the place and he meets the other Amnesty officers. He shakes their hand. They're just talking. They're shooting the shit about whatever they used to do. And G68, Amnesty officer G68, talks about how she used to work for Moff Gideon. And then they start talking about what happened to him. This is an interesting tidbit. They're like, maybe he escaped or they used a mind flayer on him. She says she tries not to think about him, which obviously isn't true. Which brings up an interesting point, which is that to me, he is definitely coming back.
What, Moff Gideon?
Yeah.
Absolutely he is. I mean, Giancarlo Esposito's been very vocal about that fact on Twitter.
Yeah. I think he'll be back, and I think that so this relates to what I was saying before, which is that this is a big rumor. Apparently, he's going to have his own special type of stormtroopers, which we'll see some cool designs for. Those are floating around on Twitter right now. But he's going to be a major villain here, and there's going to be some very cool scenes between him and Mando. So that's what's floating around on Twitter right now, which I believe. I think that's cool. I think he's a good character. He's a good bad guy. I see no reason to just waste him, you know. I liked him. I mean, I know some members of our family didn't particularly love him in the second season, but I don't know. I think he's cool. I think he's got swagger. I like the way he speaks. He's always very calm. He seems to be one step ahead. I enjoy that character, and I really think that his presence is going to tie into the introduction of Thrawn, if not later this season, then definitely the end of this season. I think he's going to be the direct connection. I think
to
we'll
finding,
see him sooner than
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, I think we'll see him sooner than we think. I think he'll be in the next episode or two, and he'll have some big, robust plan for how to get revenge or what. He's working on something. He's a smart dude. So I'll be interested to see where they go with him. Anyways, moving on. There's a lot of stuff I think we can skip over here. We do have the he talks about these biscuits, these yellow biscuits he really loved when he was at the thing. And then we get space cubicles back. So I kept thinking we're going to see Cyril or something. But we get the Star Wars space cubicles. And you and I were talking about this before the episode started, and I didn't really love it. The colloquialness, the human, earthy vibes we got in some of these scenes, I didn't love. And this office one was an example of that. They're just talking like, hey, how's the weather there, champ? And there was elements like that, and the subway train thing and like the turnstile they had, and when they're on the train, you mentioned this, the Tons Day or whatever. It just felt
I'm sorry, that was the worst line who wrote that? That was legitimately so bad. That line was terrible. That felt like it was written like by a millennial. Tongs days, am I right? Like, what are you gonna put in now? Hump day? Like, come on,
no,
guys.
It relates. I get that we're in a different universe. I get that it's Star Wars, it's fantasy, and they're trying to add stuff, but it's too close to what we're doing already as humans. It doesn't feel like you're in a galaxy far, far away to do stuff like that, because that's a colloquialism that we uniquely have as humans. And I doubt they would have the same colloquialisms there. And so stuff like that I didn't love. The little space cubicles was whatever.
Dude, that's literally a main reason why I didn't like Andor. It felt too close to us and what we do. And there should be elements that are relatable to us as people, but when you put it like that realistic to our world, like when you have characters in the Star Wars universe say like shit or I don't know, some other curse word that isn't damn or hell, or if you have them in space cubicles, or you have them like having the stupid little millennial lingo of like
or
at
a little carnival, like eating their weird little Tootsie Pop things. Like, I don't know. It also, the other thing that really it just takes you out of it, in my opinion. It takes you out of the Star Wars universe. That was the other thing, too. Yeah. The music pulled me out of this a bunch of times. So usually I love the music. I love the sound editing and mixing and all that stuff. But when they're at that little carnival, they're trying to have like a serious conversation, and I couldn't care or pay attention because you just hear this little ding 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 ding, and I'm like,
they're eating their space light bulbs or whatever.
Yeah, which by the way, like I just didn't think that was a very good effect. Like we've had so many good practical effects, and those little space light bulbs were just super CGI'd, and like when he's eating them, it gave me vibes of Attack of the Clones when he forces over the little pear to Padme and she grabs it with her fork and goes, and then like a big chunk comes out of it. And it's like clearly CGI'd. I got the same vibes here.
Oh my god, it was horrible. It was just horrible. There were so many little things like that in this episode that just don't work. They don't work at all. And oh god, you have to pull it up, don't you?
I mean, now the city skyline here, very impressive effects, right? Like, I love that. These little things I don't love. There's a specific scene here where he takes a bite out of it, and it doesn't look great. But like that practical, I mean, that's probably not practical, but it looks cool in the back. But in reality, they're probably just walking through a green screen. But like this here, that does not look very good. It also just looks awkward. You know, they're just sucking a little green thing. You know, it's like, it's just so obvious.
This is just like a little green screen lollipop.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
You know what? I don't know if you caught on to this, but the carnival music in the background was playing the Resistance theme from the sequels.
Oh, is that what it was playing?
Yeah, it was going dun 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 dun. That's what it was playing.
That's a good pickup. I didn't know that, but I mean, the little carnivalness of it took me out.
I mean, at this point in the episode, do we even really need to follow the plot anymore? Because it just doesn't matter. Like, do we really need to follow it? Literally, like, because it's like, oh, all the Amnesty people are sitting at the dinner table having conversations about the New Republic, and then he's at a carnival with Citizen Kane.
And look, I agree. It was just, it kept going on, like, it just kept going on and on and on. I also think a missed opportunity was doing more practical effects with the droids. Like this, I don't think this one's practical. Yeah, that one's not practical. I wish they would have done more practical. That was a missed opportunity, in my opinion. Stuff like that. And then it just kept going and going and going and going and going. And about a character I don't care about at all.
Well, you know what's funny? You know what's funny is, like, they tried to make you think that they were building this great relationship between Citizen Kane and Dr. Pershing, when in reality, it's so hammed up. And it's so obvious she's using him that, like, by the time you get to the end when she betrays him, you're like, wow, this is shocking. Like,
I know.
I can't believe she betrayed him. Like, it was just really obvious. And I don't know if they wrote it up to a point where that could have been really impactful.
Yeah, the other thing, I agree. It was, like, very transparent the whole time. Also, I don't care. I don't care. We're not going to see these characters have this much of an episode. At least we better not for the rest of this season. So I'm not invested. This isn't an important character. The other thing I didn't like was the train scene. How they were acting like these droids. It's, God forbid, oh, they didn't pay for their tickets. What's going to happen? As if they're going to, like, execute them for not paying for their tickets. First of all, just pay for your ticket. Just pay. I know you guys hop the turnstile. You don't have $2 to hop on the train. And then they get on there and this droid's walking towards them all menacingly, like, I'm going to get you. And they're like, we got to jump. What are we going to do? Jump. God forbid we pay for a train ticket. Like, and by the way, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that happens? They write him a ticket. Hey, have your money next time. What are they going to do? We're not in the Empire anymore. They're not just going to lock them up like they do in Andor. We're in the New Republic. This isn't scary. Who cares?
He tried to make it like they were these badasses because they were jumping across a train. Like, they tried to make them out like they were being super cool or something. And you're like, they hopped that. It took forever. They hopped that. Are we ever going to get to this stupid ship so they can steal the cloning devices?
I know. They drew it out. That big oafy furry guy was funny, but the Tonsdays thing was stupid. This shot's really cool.
The Tonsdays thing is the worst line in the history of Star Wars lines. I'm sorry. Star Wars has a lot of bad lines, but that is in, like, the top 10 worst Star Wars lines of all time. Maybe second only to somehow Palpatine returned.
Oh, that's the worst one. I don't know how you get worse than that.
Anyway, they get to the
This
little
is a
ship.
cool shot. I appreciate this. Very cool shot here. This was also super drawn out. I don't care about them running through this place.
And then them sharing their feelings / backstory.
They're stealing all this, sharing their backstory, blah, blah, blah. He grabs all the cloning stuff. They capture him. And then she's a jerk and turns up the mind flayer device and roasts him. So I guess we're done with him. But here's my question.
She turns up the Stranger Things device. Because don't they call the things mind flayers?
Mind flayer. Yeah. That was, again, so weird. Change the name. What's going on here? Like, I'm still confused. I don't know what's going on. So she's working with the New Republic to bring this guy in because he wanted the cloning devices, but she also wants him, and she's maybe working for Moff Gideon, but she told the New Republic that he was going to be there. I'm just confused.
She's a double spy. She's a triple spy, whatever you want to call her. I don't exactly know what that device does other than them saying, oh, it relaxes your brain. And so if you turn it up super high, does it then destroy your brain?
I guess.
Like, or is she trying to turn it up so he's like super relaxed? So then like she's going to do a truth serum thing on him to get the information about Grogu or something? I don't know. It wasn't
This
really
guy also
clear.
had the most ridiculous voice of all time. Sounded like Jim Gaffigan or something. Let's see if we can get a snippet of that.
Treatment recently approved for rehabilitation.
Hello, I'm a little fish man, and I've used the mind flayer, and it was
Are we
great.
sure that's not Jim Gaffigan?
No, I looked it up afterwards. It's not. It's some guy. Or actually, I don't know. Maybe I looked up the wrong name, but I think he would be credited if it was. It also kind of sounds like Brian Regan. It's either way. It sounds like a white, clean comedian.
No, I don't.
No, I think there's been a mistake.
Turn it down for a sec. No, my question for you is, I'm not sure what this device does in all seriousness. I don't know if she's trying to relax him to get more information about Grogu, but I think she's pretending to work for the New Republic, turn Dr. Pershing in as she's like, look, I'm a good person for turning this guy in. And then she's secretly Empire and she's going to get information from him about the child because we know that Moff Gideon wanted his blood for his M count, which in my opinion is midichlorian count. So I think she's doing all of this to report back to Moff Gideon.
That makes sense, I guess.
Because of the cloning.
Could have done that in a lot fewer scenes. You could have done it way quicker. They didn't need to go all the... Because also the cloning stuff doesn't even come into effect. She's not keeping it. She used that as a trick to go get him. But she could have tricked him in a million other ways that would have taken way less time of the episode. So
Yep.
I don't know why they did all that song and dance.
It's not an efficient use of time. This episode suffered from lack of knowledge of how to use the time efficiently.
Yeah. This whole part was just a lot. But after the scene, we get them to come back, and we get Mando and Bo-Katan picking up right where we left off. I love those shots of Din, by the way. I think these shots are super cool of him in his cockpit here. On some weird desert planet, talks to the Mandalorians here. They don't believe that he went there. And then I thought it was kind of ridiculous how she's like, yeah, I saw him do it. And then he's like, yeah, I brought proof. And he has the water vial. And then I'm like, okay, how are they going to know that water could be from anywhere? How do they know? And then the armorer just takes it and dumps it into like a magic Harry Potter thing. And like it just tells them that it's from the living waters. Like, what was that?
I don't know. They don't.
Because I'm even sitting there. I'm like, what? How are they going to test it? Like, are they going to verify that that's the water? Or just take him for his word. And then she does test it. And it's like I don't even know what it's called in Harry Potter because I don't like Harry Potter because it's derivative of Lord of the Rings. But they do the same thing in Harry Potter with the weird watching waters of Aragorn or whatever it's called. I don't know. I don't like Harry Potter. But that's what it made me feel like.
You know what they should have? You know how you can go to PetSmart and get the fish tank water quality tests? Maybe they did that. Maybe they have some testing strips for the living waters of Mandalore. I don't know. I genuinely, I have no idea how they were able to test it. It was very, very silly. And I love that. I don't know. I feel like they just kind of do their way through the redeem yourself plot. That's what I feel like. I feel like they made it out like it was going to be this big thing last season. Then it like, behold, I am now baptized in the living waters of Mandalore. And it only took me an episode and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, very weird. There was a couple of cool scenes at the end here. So she uses the weird Harry Potter thing to test it. The armorer, I still don't like. She's a weirdo cult leader. But she has a really cool costume. I like her costume. They did have some cool shots. Like, it was very on purpose. They have the signet in the back of a lot of those shots of the mythosaur, of the reality-asaur.
You're right. The reality-asaur, yeah.
Was in the back of that, which I thought was really cool. And then obviously they're like accepting Bo-Katan into their clan now. They're like, well, did you bathe? Because now you're redeemed. She's like, I didn't mean to be, but sure. I guess I'm redeemed.
She unintentionally baptized herself.
Yeah, she's like, I jumped in, and then I guess I haven't taken my helmet off since. I mean, I don't really care, but if you want to accept me into your clan, fine. And they're like, yeah, you can stay. So they're staying with them, I guess, is for the time being.
Her reaction was interesting. I don't know if she has ulterior motive so much as she's like, this is interesting and maybe I've partially misjudged them.
I also
don't know.
think she maybe wants to kiss Din a little bit and is excited to be with him and hanging out because she respects him more, and he almost got naked in front of her. So she's like, I might want to date him later. And so maybe I'll be a Mandalorian person. I don't know what their faction is called, but maybe I'll be one of those people because I want to hang out with Din some more, and I'm kind of liking where things are going, and my castle's blown up, so I might as well hang with him, and maybe we'll stay in the same room and take our helmets off and kiss each other when no one's looking.
Or maybe she's just coming to understand his culture a little bit better.
I like my version better.
I honestly think with Bo's character, after this episode, I am very, very convinced we're going to get a plot of Din and Bo need to work together to unite their Mandalorian
Yes.
culture. I really no, honestly, like I think that's where the plot of the show is going. Is Bo and Din are going to do like this co-leadership thing where they bring the factions, the broken factions of Mandalore, together again, so they can herald a new age, according to the Armorer. But that's where I think that's headed. The one other thing I wanted to ask you is, in this episode, God, for all its faults, I did get some undertones of the New Republic not exactly being this great thing.
Yeah.
You know, like there seems to be a very negative take of how if the Empire was leaning hard to the left, then the New Republic is leaning way too hard to the right, and they're almost overcompensating for everything that the Empire has done. Because to me, it came off like they were giving kind of a fascist approach to the New Republic, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, because especially with that droid being like, do you have any apprehension towards the New Republic or your coworkers or whatever?
Yeah.
And I don't know, they just seem to paint it in a negative light.
But what they could be doing there is, obviously we know what happened to the New Republic, and I don't agree with this, by the way. The whole First Order thing I think was so stupid and lazy. But what they could be doing, they're obviously trying to fix what the sequels did to damage the franchise. And so what they could be doing is showing why the New Republic failed. And this could be a reason why it was set up poorly to begin with, which gave room for the Empire to come back, or the First Order, whatever, and take power again. That's what I gather from this. It's like it wasn't, the New Republic was set up to fail from the beginning. It wasn't well run.
Much like the sequel trilogy.
Much like the sequel trilogy and parts of this episode. So anyways, the episode ends there. Cool costumes from all the Mandalorians. The Bo-Katan and Mando stuff was good. I liked it. There was only 10 minutes of it, and the rest of it was just not great, in my opinion. So honestly, like if we're doing ratings, this is going to be one of the lowest ratings I've given an episode in a long time, and I really feel bad. But to me, this was like a 4.9. Like it was below average for me.
I thought I was going to go 4.5.
Yeah.
You know, and that's being generous. I think the only reason... It just
felt like a waste in so many ways. Like, I get what you're trying to do. I get what you're trying to explain, but we don't need all this.
It just wasn't efficient. Like, the idea, the concept of it is not necessarily a bad concept, but it just feels like they didn't know what they were doing, and it wasn't really well structured. And so what you got is this kind of gobbledygook of a few ideas that could be spread out across multiple episodes in the season. You know, to me right now, we should be sticking to the Bo and Din stuff, and then maybe throw in a hint of Dr. Pershing here and there, and you're like, what's going on? And then you can dedicate an episode to him once you've built him up again. But we don't have a lot of information on this guy. And the fact that they devoted an episode to him so early in the season with no backstory is you're asking your audience not to care.
Are we supposed to care? Like, are we supposed to like him or not? Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? What are we supposed to feel about this guy? I don't get it, because he was kind of he's just a thing, like, existing. There's nothing that ties you to him or makes you want to know more about the guy. I get it. He's like a cloning thing or whatever. It's just they literally could have done that storyline cut throughout the episode in 2-minute scene increments, if that. Like, you didn't have to have 30 minutes or whatever it was dedicated to
It
that.
just took
to that
so
story.
long. It took so long. For
Now,
them
I
to
will
get
say
through.
positives about it. I liked Coruscant a lot. I really, really like that. The fight scene, the ship fight scene was amazing. Costume design was great. And the Grogu thing, hint of talking thing, was cool. Other than that, give me next week's episode.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm a little concerned about where this season is headed. Like, some things have felt a little wonky to me so far, and I know we're very early in the season still, but I think I'm feeling a little underwhelmed so far just because, a lot of Mandalorian season 2 was, no, I'm not going to say a lot. All of Mandalorian season 2 seemed to be undone by having Din and Grogu reunite in Book of Boba Fett. Whereas I think it would have been much more interesting had Din gone to Mandalore alone, and you have to build that relationship with Bo. And then you don't see Grogu until maybe close to the finale again. Like, I think it would have been a lot better had they kept Din and the child separate for a while, so we have something to look forward to and we have something to build towards. But unfortunately, the corporate men in suits said, hey, Baby Yoda makes money. So we got to reunite him with his dad ASAP. And I'm just kind of feeling a little underwhelmed because of that so far. So I'm anxious for it to pick up. And I'm a little bit nervous right now, especially given how this episode went. Yeah. So, I mean, crossing fingers for next week. But
this episode felt a lot to me like they already wrote the Din stuff with the living waters of bathingness. And then him and Bo going to live together and maybe start dating or whatever in the Mandalorian covert. And then it felt like they had an idea for a side plot thing that they came up with at the end of writing this season. And they're like, where can we put this? And they were like, oh, we'll just do it in season 3 and we'll cut it in between these two bookends of Mandalorian stuff because we want to tell this part of the story. And that's what it felt like to me.
Based on what you just said, it sounds like it was a repurposed, like, Rangers of the New Republic side plot.
Could have been.
This almost felt like it belonged in another show that got canned. And they were like, well, I gotta put it somewhere. So let's just restructure it to have Dr. Pershing and Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Either way. Well, so I guess we gave our ratings. Not my favorite episode, but we'll get them next week. Not every episode can be a banger. Let's get into our T-shirt winner. T-shirt contest winner.
T-shirt contest.
T-shirt contest. If you guys want to win a free T-shirt, write us in at anotherstarwarspod@gmail.com or comment on our community page your theory and question, and we'll pick a winner next week as well. This week's winner comes from Samuel L. Samuel writes, my theory behind the Imperial interceptors and bombers and who sent them is that it wasn't Gideon who sent, but it was Thrawn who sent them, and we can expect to see him coming for Bo-Katan. My question is, do you think Bo-Katan will help Din and Greef Karga fight the Empire on Navarro? So kind of two separate things here. I like that theory. We did already talk about it, right? That was kind of what you had mentioned at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really interesting because you and I have talked about the potential of intersecting Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Skeleton Crew in a potential movie or something. All their storylines potentially intersecting, and we know that Thrawn is going to be in Ahsoka. So it wouldn't surprise me if they gave a little hint to that this season. So I think that's a really interesting point. On the second point, Bo-Katan will help Din and Greef Karga fight the Empire. I don't know. I mean, do we know if the Empire is even going to come to Navarro? They might. I think Bo and Din are definitely close. And they are going to help each other now. They've teamed up and maybe might be going steady. I don't know.
I don't think they're going steady. He's not going to pin her, whatever they called it back in the 60s or whatever. Yeah, I don't, I can imagine. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that Bo and Din are buddies at this point. I think that they'll continue to be buddies unless Bo has her own ulterior motives regarding the Darksaber, which I don't know that she necessarily does. We haven't really got enough of her reactions. Right now, I just think she has a lot of conflict within her. But I do think if the Empire came back, she'd help them. I think Din's growing on her, and I think that if something did happen, she would be willing to help defend them. No, that is in my headphones. Please stop.
Actually, it'd probably sound closer to this.
Sucking face.
Does their helmets touch? That's how Mandalorians kiss. This is the way.
I do. I'm not a Dokkajarin shipper. No Dokkajarin.
Dokkajarin 2023.
Dokkajarin. I'm not a Dokkajarin shipper.
I am. Let's get Bo-Katan and Din making babies and have Grogu's little friend. That's what we want.
Well, he could just go back to Omera.
Thank you, Samuel. Please email us with your shirt size and information, and we'll get that out to you. That's pretty much it. Short-ish episode today. But again, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about cool haircut, buff chick, and Dr. Pershing for an hour and a half.
Citizen Kane and Dr. Pershing.
But look, I appreciate all the work that went into it. That's a positive thing I'll say. And I'm looking forward to next week if our theories are correct, which, by the way, we have a good track record of predicting things on this show. So if you guys want to know exactly what's going to happen, tune into our show because our theories are the best. And the only way to do that is by liking and subscribing and clicking the notification bell so you are aware of when all our episodes come out. Also, we have a Bad Batch breakdown coming soon, which, Melissa, we should probably record tomorrow. And we'll get that up and we can talk about another kind of lackluster episode, in my opinion. Sorry if anyone from Lucasfilm is watching. I love you. This week was kind of a weak week for Star Wars, in my opinion.
It was, let me put it this way. It was cute. It was cute, but that's about all I'm going to say for it.
Okay.
It's another example of stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And I don't know if these episodes of season 2 of Bad Batch in particular have been placed in the right order necessarily.
Yeah.
I think that's
I agree.
A good place to cap it for right now, but we will share our thoughts on that tomorrow. So if you want to check that out, please make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Click that notification bell so you know when all of our stuff comes out. We've got our breakdowns coming out. We're going to be done with Bad Batch pretty soon, and then weekly it'll just be Mando, and then that'll free up our time to add some other content for you guys. I know that you and I are planning on watching some specials that some people have recommended, so if you guys have any topics that you think would be interesting to cover, please let us know. I mean, we'd love to hear them. And maybe some Star Wars things that have been made that we've never heard of. I mean, there's so much content out there. So
I will be doing a reaction to the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie that someone cut together, the Patterson cut.
Yes, the Patterson cut.
Which I haven't watched yet, but it's on my to-do list. I just need to cut out 2 hours or 2.5 hours to actually do that. But that will be coming on the channel soon as well.
Yes.
But that's it for this week, guys. We will talk to you next time on our Bad Batch breakdown. Or if you don't watch Bad Batch, we'll see you next week for our Mandalorian episode 4 breakdown. So
see you guys later.
Bye.